continuing on with lesson 19.2, the transformation. So we're going to be sliding left, right, and up, down, and then working on vertex form of a quadratic. So yesterday we worked on vertical translations, and then we just started horizontal translations. So that is determining what the h is, and that tells you how you're going to move it left and right. So here the h was positive 1, so the whole graph moved 1 to the right. The last question we did was 2b. This is where it got tricky when it says x plus 1. That really means x minus negative 1, because to be in vertex form there needs to be a subtraction sign, and then whatever's after the subtraction sign is your h. So the h here was negative 1. So we moved the graph 1 unit to the left. And then we found the vertex, which was the minimum. And then the axis of symmetry is always x equals whatever the x value is. Okay, now we are on the 2 questions that you can do by yourself, or you can work on it with another person. So here is question number 3. So this you can either work on your own or you can go work with somebody. You're going to graph, you're going to say the minimum or maximum and the axis of symmetry. Okay, number 3, g of x equals x minus 2 squared. Graph, state the minimum or maximum and the axis of symmetry. And then when you're done, number 4 will be up here as well. Okay, you can move around and go work with someone on this one. So here, that 2, because it's x minus h, so your h is whatever comes after the minus sign. So h is 2, so it should have moved the whole graph 2 units to the right. So the graph should look something like this. It opens up. Don't forget to have arrows on both sides. And that bottom, that vertex, is the bottom of the graph, so it's a minimum, and it's at 2, 0. The axis of symmetry is always x equals, and it's whatever the x value is in the vertex. So x is positive 2. Questions on number 3? So far, so good? Okay, for this one, this is more of the trickier one. So remember, it needs to be x minus h. So it needs to be whatever after the minus sign. There's a plus sign there. So x plus 3, that's the same as x minus negative 3. So your h value is really a negative 3, which means your whole graph should be going left 3 units. That's the part that most people are going to miss on these things. When it asks you what the h value is, it's got to be negative 3. So that graph was shifted 3 to the left. It looks like this. And then the minimum value, because it's the bottom of the parabola, is negative 3, 0. And the axis of symmetry is x is negative 3. It's always x is, and it's whatever the x value is from the vertex. Okay, right now look at your notes. If you go to look back at this in a week, in 2 weeks, do you know what you did? So look at your notes right now. Is there anything else you need to add in there? Because you know a week or 2 from now you're not going to have a clue what you were writing down. Okay, we're going to go on to the last example then. Example 3 is going to be using vertex form. So vertex form is g of x, or y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. The vertex of the graph is going to be at h comma k. And the axis of symmetry is at x equals whatever that h value is. So whatever you got here for h goes right there. Okay, so we're going to be using this for example 3. Okay, 3a, the equation is g of x equals -3 times x plus 1 squared minus 2. Now what I'm going to do is underneath it, I'm going to write the vertex form. So vertex form is a times x minus h squared plus k. This will help me to identify what the a, the h, and the k really stand for. And then I can know some details about my range just from looking at the equation in vertex form. Okay, first, a is -3. Remember that a value tells you if your graph is going to be opening up or down. So since it's a negative, I know that this graph, when I graph it, is going to open going down, which means that vertex will be the maximum. So I know all the ones we've been doing, it kept being minimum, minimum, minimum. This one will finally be a maximum. Okay, here this says x plus 1. I need it to say x minus something. So x plus 1, that's really x minus -1, because subtracting a negative is the same as plus 1. So that's the tricky part, is x plus 1 is really x minus -1. So now I know the h value. H is -1. The h tells you if you're moving left and right. So if h is -1, that means I'm going to shift the graph 1 unit to the left. And then finally, this is really plus -2, so k is really -2, because -2 is the same as plus -2. The k value tells me if I'm going up or down. So since it's -2, I'm going to shift the graph 2 units down. So just from vertex form, I know that the graph is going to go down. It's going to have a maximum value. It's going to move 1 unit to the left and 2 units down. Okay, we can state the vertex right now. The vertex is always h comma k. So the vertex here, h is -1, k is -2. So there's one of our answers. It asks me for the vertex. The axis of symmetry. That's going to be x equals whatever the h value is, or whatever the x is from the coordinates on that vertex. So x is -1. I want to show you another way. We did this a few days ago. But if you can't find the vertex, so if I give you a math test and it says, what's the vertex of this equation? And for some reason you can't remember what to do for all this stuff. Another thing you're going to do is you're going to graph this. And I do want us to practice this today. So in your graphing calculator or in Desmos, I want you to plug in the equation. So there was our equation. Everybody grab your calculator right now and plug this whole thing in, because I want you to actually practice typing this in, because a lot of times this -2 you guys forget and you leave it up in the air. So make sure that -2 drops back down. So right now take your calculator so that you're actually practicing this skill, because if not, when it comes to a test, if you're not practicing, I don't want you raising your hand saying, I don't know how to put this in. So plug this into your calculator. And I want you to pull up your table of values. And we're going to pull up the table of values for x is -3, -2, -1, 0, and 1. Okay, first, if you want to see what the graph looks like, it's going to be going down, looks like that. Go into your table of values. When x is -3, y is -14, -5, -2, -5, and -14. So I got these y values just from the table. So we did this a few days ago. I said you can find your vertex from the table a lot of times. You're just looking to see what matches up. So -14 and -14, those match up. Because you have to imagine, if this is graphed, it's going to be the same on both sides on that axis of symmetry. So -5, -5. The point that's not repeating, that's in the middle of all those symmetrical numbers, that's your vertex. We did this a few days ago. So your vertex is at -1, -2. So that's just another way to do it. You don't need to use graph paper. Just do a quick sketch of what this graph looks like. Just on your notebook paper is fine. So that graph, its vertex was at -1, -2. So kind of imagine where would be -1, -2, and then it's going down. So just make a parabola that faces down. I just want us to have something in your notes because everything's been graphs going up for this lesson. So just make note, this point right here, that vertex, that's a maximum value in this one. Because we kept doing these, but we kept doing minimum ones. So I just want to make sure you guys have one that says a maximum. So that was your max value, and that max value again is just the vertex. -1, -2. And it's the maximum because it's on the top of the parabola. Okay, we're going to do one more like that. So that I just wanted to show you there's another way to find vertex. Okay, this is 3b. G of x equals 2 times x minus 1 squared minus 7. Okay, underneath I'm going to write vertex form. So a times x minus h squared plus k. So a is 2. And since it's positive, I know the graph, when I graph it, it will be going up. It'll be opening upwards. So it'll have a minimum value. H is what comes after the minus sign. So H is +1. So since H tells me left and right, if I'm going +1, I'm going to the right 1 unit. This really says plus -7, so K is -7. K value tells me if I'm going up and down, so since it's -7, I'm going to go down 7 units. My vertex is at H, K. So the vertex is at 1, -7. And then the axis of symmetry is at x equals, and it's whatever the x value is, so 1. So for these, you don't have to graph them. If you want to, you can, but if you know how to find HK, you can do it that way as well now. Okay, you're going to do 2 more for today. These ones you can work on with friends, so if you want to move around. I want to know what's the vertex and the axis of symmetry. So question 5, y equals negative parenthesis x minus 2 squared plus 4. And then when you're done with that one, I'll have number 6 up here too. So find the vertex and the axis of symmetry. You do not have to graph it unless you want to. So A x minus h squared plus k. A is -1. There's really 1 times this, so A is -1. It's negative, that tells me the graph will be going downwards. H is whatever comes after the minus sign. So H is 2. Positive 2, so that means it's going to go to the right 2 units. K is positive 4, so we'll go up 4 units. The vertex is at 2, 4, because it's at HK. And then the axis of symmetry is at x equals positive 2. This is what the graph looked like if you did graph it. It had a maximum value at 2, 4. Questions on number 5. Okay, last one. A value is 2. That means the graph will be going up because it's positive. Okay, now this one's the tricky one. H is whatever comes after the minus sign. So there's no minus sign, so you have to make it into a minus sign. So this needs to say x minus -3. So that means H is -3. So it's going to go left 3 units. And the K value is -1. So that's going to go down 1 unit. The vertex here is at HK, so it's at -3, -1. And then the axis of symmetry is at x is -3. And if you want to see what the graph looks like, it opened upwards, and that minimum value is at -3, -1. Questions? So I just wanted to show you another way to do it. So I don't care which way you choose to do it. There's multiple ways to do the vertex. Okay, I have a lot of people that I have a feeling want to retake their module 17-18 summative tomorrow. If you haven't come and shown me your study guide, if you have any missing assignments, you're not retaking the summative. So today you need to go through, because if you haven't read my email I sent out last week, it tells you what you need to do the summative. Because I saw some of you signed up for Flex with me, and I think that's what you think you're coming in to do. You're not retaking the test unless you've done all the other stuff first. Don't come to me last minute and say, well, I meant to. So you have time today. So if you owe me anything, today we're getting caught up on everything. Friday is also going to be a catch-up day. So those of you that have been absent, you have a few days at least of time in class to get help from me. Okay, so find what you need to work on